we're just going to go into the Hi, and welcome to Get Real Estate. I'm your host, Monika Thomas. I've been a real estate agent now for 10 years, and I love helping people buy their first home. And Elizabeth Moreno has been my preferred lender for so long, we don't even want to think back to how, living without each other, because we've closed so many deals together and really helped people understand how to get into this home buying process.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful journey it's been to help people hand them their keys and make their dreams come true. Monika.
Yeah,
I'm very happy to be here with you.
Totally. And Shiva J is joining us. She's an agent also with my company, Engel and Volkers. And I'm so excited to, help people learn how, because I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, escrow, what is that? What are we doing? When do I get my keys? People have so many questions, for their agents and for their lenders about how to do this thing. So welcome to Get Real Estate.
Thank
Shiva?
you, Monika. Yes, I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of go through the first couple of steps. We have a couple of, so here is the, actually, let's start with the monopoly board, the first steps in buying the home buying process, because it is kind of like a game that we go through. So what are some of the first steps in becoming a home buyer? Is honestly, it's getting pre-approved, because I always think, how much can you afford, and really think about that, because that's going to affect, how much home you can get.
Exactly. And that is where I come in. As a
Totally.
lender, I am involved from pretty much day one. I just recently saw The Sound of Music. So what does she talk about? Julie Andrews talks about, let's start at the very beginning.
Oh, yeah.
So the very beginning is
best place to start.
Yeah, it is the best place to start. Finding out what the banks are thinking you are
You can afford.
capable of affording. So when you put your clients in touch with me, Monika, I ask them a series of questions that will help me then guide them as to what their next step will be in filling out the application and what type of documentation they'll need to provide. Banks want to know that people have good credit. Credit scores are very important in America. I've worked with people from other countries that maybe didn't realize that, but here your credit will determine what kind of interest rates you'll be able to qualify for, as well as different types of programs. Obviously, if you're above a 740 credit score, they consider that excellent. But don't fret, because you can buy a house with interest with credit scores as low as 580. Obviously, the interest rates and programs for those are going to be very different, but it's important to know where your credit is. Then they're going to want to know your 2-year work history.
Right.
So I get into that right away. Where do you work? Are you hourly? Are you salaried? Are you commission based? How is it that you earn your money? Because based on that, it's going to determine what type of products you'll be eligible for and what kind of paperwork I'm going to need. For instance, if you're self-employed, we need tax returns for the last 2 years. Whereas if you're a W-2 employee, we'll just need your W-2s for the last 2 years and your most recent 30-day pay stubs. But if you are commission-based, we'll need to take into account different factors. So talking to someone at the beginning and finding out what kind of work history they have along with their credit score is very important. And then let's not forget how much money do people have to work with?
Right. What are they starting with?
Exactly. How much money? I always say, once I ask all the initial questions about income and credit and everything else, I always say the $1,000,000 question is, how much money are we working with? And they're like, well, I don't understand. I go, well, how much money is there that
Have
you're
you saved
considering?
anything? Yeah.
Yeah, towards the down payment and closing costs.
Yeah.
And no answer is a bad answer, but
Right.
but based on that, I'll say, okay, great. If you have 200,000 to play with,
Right.
where it's very different versus if you have 20,000 to play with.
Totally.
So first time home buyers.
If you're buying with another person, or, are you thinking, oh, my mom is going to help me? And then we have to have
Exactly.
those conversations as well.
Exactly. And sometimes, parents want to know what it's going to take for them to gift their children
Right.
those funds.
And-
Is it going to affect their taxes in any way
Right.
or anything? So I sometimes do have conversations with the parents.
Right.
I've done that several
And
times
the
for your
gift
clients as well.
letters and
Exactly.
all of that.
Yes. So initially, I will have that conversation. Typically, I tell people set aside 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes I go longer. Sometimes we're on the phone for up to an hour answering questions they might have for me that haven't been answered along the way. But once I know the initial where they're starting and who's involved and if anyone's gifting and how many people I need to send the application to, and they send me their paperwork, I can get a file underwritten beforehand. So what does that do for you as a realtor?
Oh, it's magic.
Exactly. It's magic. So I send them the application, I gather the paperwork, and then my job is I send that off to the bank for an underwriter to review the file. And once the underwriter gets the file, they might have additional questions for me that then I reach out to the buyer and say, hey, this is a little unclear in your application. Let's sort all of this stuff out prior to getting you engaged in making offers on properties so that we don't have any surprises when we're in contract.
Yeah. We don't like those surprises
We don't
in
like
contract.
No,
No,
not at
no.
all. No one ever does. The only surprise realtors
Oh, I have
and
more
buyers,
money. Yeah. That's
the only surprise realtors and buyers really like is when the appraisal actually comes in higher
right.
than when you're purchasing
the
the
best.
property for.
Yeah.
But that's not very
as
often.
common
Yeah.
as we would like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So getting pre-approved is the first step, and I do my best to answer the questions buyers might have. I talk to them about what a debt-to-income ratio is because
Very important.
that's one of the big things that lenders
Can-
use to determine if a
Right.
person can afford a payment.
Right.
So I explain to them based on $1,000 of your gross income, most lenders will let you go up to having $500 in monthly expenses. So, but that is like the max you can expect. So if you're making $10,000 a month gross, they'll want to see that your expenses, including your mortgage payment and any other debts you have, will not exceed $5,000 a month. So once we have that, that'll help us figure out, okay, Mr. and Mrs. First-time home buyer, based on your income and your current debts, this is the monthly payment you could afford so that we stay at that 50% debt to income ratio or less.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Shiva, how about you? Do you have any guidelines for first-time home buyers that you have used in your practice?
I do, and this diagram is actually very helpful. But the first process, I agree, it's to get pre-approved.
Yeah.
And one of the question I'll encourage my first-time home buyer to ask a loan agent is to talk about how much payment they can afford versus how much payment they're comfortable with. 'Cause
And what's the difference there?
I'm experiencing in first-time home buyer a poll that there are a lot of gifts that grandparents or parents gifts to this young generation, and they want to start buying a home with that first down payment that they've been gifted to, but they're not really confident about their job or about the payment that they want to make.
Yeah.
So they want to be in comfortable zone too. So they don't want to stretch themselves all the way thin to not be able to enjoy life too. That's another aspects of it. So
Right.
I want them to be aware and ask that question from lenders too when they meet the lenders.
Yeah.
So in regards to lending, I just wanted to mention that.
Totally. No, it's
Very
really
much so.
important. And you don't want to, especially, I mean, right now we're not in a competitive market. I mean, we should talk a little bit about where we are right now. Right now, our inventory is at a 40-year low. And so we're having, there isn't a lot of influx of new construction all around the Bay. Prices are going over asking. And so you really have to think about like, okay, how much am I willing to spend, just so you don't like fall in love with this house and then get tempted to spend more than you wanted to at the beginning.
Correct. I have a lot of people that have really good credit right now, very good jobs, no debt. And based on their income, they can afford up to a $9,000 a month payment. However, they're currently paying less than $2,600 a month in rent. And I could tell them, okay, you could go out and afford a mortgage payment of $9,000. And they say, well, that doesn't feel comfortable. And I
Right.
go, I totally agree. I wouldn't want that for myself. Why don't we, based on what you feel comfortable with, let's get you into a payment, maybe mid $4,500 to $5,000 range. And they're like, okay, let's work with that. And then we work on, based on that, how much money or they'll need to put down, or what purchase price and what areas they'll need to look at to accommodate what they really want to afford monthly.
Right.
And that's the biggest difference, because I'm seeing people do have good solid jobs, they have good credit, even if they're starting out, but they have very little money towards down payment, or maybe they don't have some people don't have those parents or grandparents that can gift them. We have to look at maybe FHA
Right.
or down payment assistance programs through CalHalfa
Yeah.
to help get them in.
Exactly.
But what I tell them is, buying real estate is not about getting rich quick.
No, it's about getting rich slow.
Yeah.
And you get rich at the end. Like, because you sell your house and it's like it's so different than when you're renting. And what do you get at the end? Nothing.
Exactly.
And when
maybe
you're a
your
homeowner,
security deposit back.
Right.
You kept your place
It
up
was
well.
nice. Yeah.
But here you're getting equity growth.
Yeah.
And buying a property in the Bay Area, we know real estate doubles in the Bay Area pretty much every 10 years.
Yeah. It's been bananas.
Then you get write-offs on your taxes. There's so many benefits to owning.
Well,
real
and
estate.
you live in your house. So not only it's like a savings account that you get to live in also. And then you get to like do all the things that you've always wanted to do, like add a bathroom or do this or put in the attic. I mean, there's so many fun little things once you can kind of afford, because at the beginning, you're like living a little paycheck to paycheck, like, oh, I just have to make the payments. But like after you're in the property for a while, you can start really making it yourself. And that's the really fun part.
Especially when I speak with first-time home buyers, I go, look, you guys know that every year your income continues to go up and up. Your income's increasing. However, your payment is going to stay steady. You have a 30-year fixed loan.
Yeah.
And at some point, especially if you go in with the down payment assistance program, and right now when rates are high, you'll be able to take the benefit, once you have equity, to refinance into a better loan, remove mortgage insurance, have even a better payment monthly, and it's going to be easier to afford because you're making more money as you can every year.
They say marry the house and date
and
the
date
rate.
the interest rate.
So don't wait for interest rate if you need a roof, your first roof. And I would add, Monica, that yes, getting into real estate to become wealthy, to work on your investment, that is true. But first time home buyer, it's to bring your mentality to I'm getting my feet into the door
Right.
of establishing that wealth for myself and for my family. So I see a lot of first time home buyer that they get wrapped around where I'm going to put my furniture in. This is not big enough. I'm not going to afford the bigger one. And,
Right.
and I have to work with them, bring them back to reality that this is not going to be your first and last home. So
Right.
you got to just think I'm putting my foot in there.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be another step to improve that.
Yeah. And people generally, what is the general guideline? I think 7 years, 8 years that people like stay in one particular property and then they maybe have kids or something. It is kind of a process, but then you have to get on that ladder somewhere.
100%.
Yeah, it is a cycle, depends on age that they come off after college, they want 1-bedroom condo.
Yeah.
And then they go to 2-bedroom in Metropolitan with, partner or, spouses. And then when they have kids, they want suburban with better, school district and home with land so they can run around
Have
and
the
then
dog and the
at
kids back there.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they go back when they're in retirement. They want to sell it again and go buy something small close to kids and
Right.
grandson and grandbabies. So it's a cycle always, and it repeats like every 3, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. And how do you start people out with the selection process? Like I use Real Scout. Do you use a CRM? What do you use?
I do
Shiva?
use Real Scout also.
uh-huh.
I also tell first-time home buyer that I'm not the only resource
Right.
because there's a lot of other off-market homes that I might be not aware of it. There's a lot of things you pass by a neighborhood that you like,
Yeah.
and you see they have like these container pods or they're remodeling or something. Grab the phone. I encourage them, grab the phone, give me the address, and I go buy the address or I'll go buy the property and I find out, are they getting ready to sell?
Are you getting ready to sell?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you do, I do have a client who is pre-approved,
Right.
and ready to go, and maybe we can snatch something for them. So we're not the only source, and I encourage them. We're as a team in this house hunting. So I will do my part, and I want them to be aware. And it's a hunting, especially in Bay Area. So we both have to work hand in hand.
Together.
Yes.
Yeah. And
When I
open
said-
houses and
Yes.
all the things.
When I send off the pre-approval letter to the realtors and the buyers, I always end with happy house hunting because it is a hunt.
Totally.
And that's so interesting that you throw that out there as a suggestion and do more exploration. I think that's very, what's it called? You're very involved. I
Yes.
like that.
I do.
You take it to a
try
next
to
level,
support your
not just
clients,
like,
too.
oh, let's just check what's on the MLS. No, it's like, let's find other ways that
Right.
might not be staring you right in front with a for sale sign.
Yes, exactly. So if the mentality is we're team and you're looking for this opportunity, if you're in a party or something, somebody says, oh, my neighbor is trying to sell her house, or, we got this couch from her, and this has happened to me. They came to me and they're like, oh, we got the address, we got the phone number, can you call her? And we end up having that house for my first time home buyer. It's just as they heard it in the party. So you have to ongoing be aware of what opportunities around you.
Exactly. So let's move to the next phase of now you're going to the different houses and you're taking people around. So maybe you're making a tour and you're touring different homes around the Bay Area. Let's talk about that part of the process when we're going on tour. So I give people about, I say up to 5 or 6 houses at max where I, make a tour and we go around and like check out all these different houses. Now, I think that the human brain shuts down when you have too many choices. You're like, what was that one that we saw in Lafayette? I can't remember, la la la. And so I'm people like at the beginning they're like, oh, I want to see everything, but you can only remember about 6 or 7 choices. So I try to, reel people in, and then it does matter, like if there's a house that I don't know. I always think about staging and, how many other offers are there. And so, if a house is like really beautiful, sometimes it's going to be more hard for them to get, like, I always want a house, like, I kind of love fixers, It's so wonderful. Like, if a house has been on the market for a while and it's a little bit of a fixer, but, the carpet maybe needs replacement, but, the bones are good. Like, that's the homes that I'm really looking for my clients, because I want them to, get their offers accepted right away. And then, be able to move into this house and not like, because you're not going to be able to keep the furniture with you, the staging furniture, right? Because you're buying the house, not the furniture. So I always try to help them look beyond the staging, which, professional stagers, God bless them, but, look beyond the furniture and is this the house that, you're going to have coffee in the morning,
So one suggestion, Monica, I have for first-time home buyer when we're touring is I'm prepared. I'll give, even if they're, let's say their family, their husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever. I give each a notepad and a pen, and I ask them to take a picture and write down on each home the list of items you liked or criteria, design, kitchen, floor plan. You write down what you liked about this house and what you absolutely hated about this house or property. And then take a picture of it or take a little clip. And when you go home, check with each other, especially if the buyer is not one person and it's involved with another person.
You're in a team.
You have to align. It's like marriage. You have to align and see, what do I really want?
Right.
Criteria wise, which one's more important? What's the highlight? What I cannot absolutely stand living with. And then check those criteria and narrow it down. The more you see, the more you have the checklist, delete or plus sign, then you narrow it down to what you want. The next time when we're going house hunting, you be able to tell me, okay, this, don't waste your time.
Right.
Because we know we don't want it.
Right.
Let's go hunt this
It's
one.
not an Easter egg hunt.
Exactly. Exactly.
So just how when Shiva said, hey, if you see a house with a pod or something in front, get me that information so that I can do some more research. She goes above and beyond. You're going above and beyond and helping first-time home buyers see the potential in a property.
Right.
Because yes, it's easy to like a home when it's fully staged.
When it's
but
beautiful,
can
yeah.
you see the value and opportunity in front of
Right.
you in a home that has not been staged?
Yeah.
Are you?
If it
so
only needs
that-
carpet and paint, that's a winner.
Oh my goodness, of course. And
Right.
sometimes that's, especially if they've never owned a home or can't see, it's like, hey, let's save some of your funds so that you can, when you come in, rip out this carpet.
Yeah.
Get rid of the popcorn. This
Yeah.
is a good neighborhood. These homes
Popcorn
are
feeling.
like one of those, vintage
Eschers.
homes or that could be kind of made modern and
Exactly.
you could create the feel that those stagers had, but give yourself some time. And also I like to sell them, especially with the first time home buyers, on sweat equity. You do a couple of
exactly.
these things
Totally.
to it and you're immediately going to be building up equity in a property, making it
Totally.
more attractive to sell for when you're ready to take that step into the next house.
Yeah.
which is going to be in that better school district if you have the child, or going
Totally.
to be putting them in school. But
Absolutely.
it's so important to help them see what they can't see. But that only comes with years of being here and seeing it. It's like, oh, I remember seeing that house before they remodeled, and then my
Right.
clients bought it, and look at what they did.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's so important to be able to sell them on what's possible. with
Yeah. All the beautiful
properties.
possibilities.
Yes. I agree.
And let's move into kind of the in between, like as you're picking a house to offer on. How do we help people make that decision?
Um,
Yeah.
What I do, I make them prioritize, because what I see as a realtor as a priority, which we always say location, might not be for many. So I sit down with them and check the priority list, what they make. And then we go through it, and on the first option that they absolutely love, we go forward and try to win that in sending an offer. And then if that didn't happen on the list, we go down. This is how I help them to choose. Another thing is, you have to, I'll have that communication up front, that who is the decision maker. Because in a lot of, family, different culture, background, mine,
it
one
can
of them,
be the woman.
it could be the woman of the house. It could be the man of the house.
It
It
could
could
be.
be the whole minibus of the whole family.
Yeah, the
aunt,
entire family.
uncle has
Absolutely.
to have and say something about it.
Totally.
So up front, I would ask, who is the decision makers?
Right.
You two making the decision makers. Family has to be involved.
And it
who
does
has
take
to
a
say-
village.
Yes, yes. Yes, exactly. So this is how I help them to get through and make a process. I had one case, and this is a real case, and I'm not making this up, that the grandma in the family had to come see it and say the last word. And we would do prep up all these works, and comps and everything, you have to go through, and lender would do their own work and time, put it in there, and like, yes, go, the HOA is approved, go. And then the grandma would come at the end and said, nope, I don't like this, because this is facing this, and this is and that's
And she knew the feng shui. And
yes.
she's like, no.
So I'm like, you know what, this is frustrating. I should have asked to begin with.
Yeah.
That she's the factor in
Right.
here. So
Totally.
you have
That's
to ask
some
that.
wisdom,
Yes.
right? You're learning that there's the hard way and the
Sometimes,
easy way
yes,
to learn things.
you learn
yeah,
in a hard way.
totally.
You learn from every transaction.
Right,
You come
exactly.
away with
More wisdom.
Yes, with every transaction for sure.
Totally. So now they've fallen in love, and now we're helping people like go through the making an offer process. What do people need to know for making an offer?
That seller likes clean offer.
Yeah, they do. So what clean offer means is, first of all, it's not a lot of conditions, and you want to really think about, like, I always, as an agent, I always talk to the listing agent, and I'm like, what would make your seller happy? Do they need rent back? Do they need more time so that they can find another property? So, make sure that you speak with the listing agent and ask your buyer, do you need to move in right away? And then of course we're working with each other because,
Right.
you're always my lender. So we can say, okay, so this family, we'll give them 30 days to move in, and make sure that that's okay, because that will work for the pre-approval
Yes.
or the pre. I mean, you actually go all the way through past just the approval to the
Correct.
underwriting.
Well, yeah. So it's so important for the beginning, find out what kind of environment, market we're working in. If we're working in one where it's like,
Right.
we need, apart from like a clean close, meaning hardly any conditions.
Right.
That's another reason why pre-approvals are so important. For instance, if you want to go in with a no loan contingency,
Right.
or loan condition, that means you really want to have your entire file reviewed by the bank before submitting that, so that you know that everything's checked
There's
off,
less
and they can
risk.
feel safe. The buyers feel safe putting in that offer. Depending on how aggressive people need to be. Right now, I guess you don't need to waive appraisal contingencies because they're not, I mean, there are some multiple offers still right now because there's not that much inventory. But I think some people are leaving shorter contingencies. It's like, well, give me like an appraisal contingency, but let's get it done in 8 days or something.
Yeah. And how long are usually appraisals going right now?
Right now, I can remove an appraisal contingency in about 8 to 9 days.
Okay.
When things get really busy, appraisal that, to get an appraisal done has doubled in
Has
value
it
since the
taken more
pandemic
time?
happened. Before they were like 500 something. Now they're close to $1,000 to get an appraisal done just because of the demand.
Right.
And they were taking about 12 to 15 days in some cases to get
Right.
an appraisal because they were in
It was
such
taking
high
longer.
demand. Yes. But right now I can get an appraisal back in about 8 to 9 days.
Good.
And that is a condition that a lot of people still like to leave so that they could have something. Maybe if it's not an inspection contingency or the loan, they'll do an appraisal because they feel like then everything else in the file is pretty solid.
And there's one trick that I like to add, something like, if you write this offer and let's say that it doesn't appraise for the value, like how much and have this conversation with your client, like how much are you able and willing to put in a little bit more and then put a cap on it? So they're not risking the whole farm, obviously. They're only risking up to, let's say, $30,000 or $20,000. You're giving, you're working with the listing agent saying, look, my clients are qualified, and if it comes in low, we're willing to go this much higher. It doesn't sound like, properties aren't appraising for the value right now in this market. But it's always a good carrot, to make your offer look just a little bit better, even better.
Sure. And that all depends on how much the buyer says, nope, I really love this house. And yes, I am willing to do that.
Right, exactly.
And that's, something to really discuss with your buyers beforehand.
Well, they're always in love in the beginning, right? It's such a relationship. Right?
Yeah.
That you at the beginning, you're in love with the property, and then you get the appraisal back. And then the appraisal, you have this problem and that problem and this problem. How do you deal with some of the ups and downs of the escrow? Shiva?
So this is what I say. Everybody could get a license and sell a house, but the skill comes when trouble like this happens, and
it's
you
when
have
it's
to,
not smooth,
right? When
Yeah.
it's not as smooth, and most of the time it's not as smooth.
Right.
How to work that out?
Escrow rodeo.
Exactly. Exactly. When you get that inspection report back, and there is
It's
a problem
always
you don't
something, yeah.
see behind the wall or
Right.
underneath the house,
Yeah.
then what would you do? And that comes our negotiation skills.
Exactly.
And how smooth operator we are to talk to the other end agents
Yeah.
and make this understanding that we
Make
have
the
to make
relationship
both
work.
happy and come in the middle. If there's something curable, we can fix it in an amount of time before
Yeah.
closing. We can do that. If not, if it's major issue, then it's another
And then a
road.
seller credit or a price reduction. And it's often best, this I'm getting from the broker's appreciation, every Friday there's a broker meeting, and they just say often it's better, not to get into fixing first of all, you don't want the buyer fixing the property. If anyone's going to fix the property, it's got to be the seller. However, usually it's better just to give the give the buyer a credit and let them do the repairs after close of escrow, because otherwise you're opening up that can of worms, and we don't want to know what's wrong.
And you don't want seller to fix that in rush.
Exactly.
To just close it.
Do it wrong, because
Yes.
that's the number one way to get into a lawsuit.
Just make sure that the seller credit shows up, that it is towards closing costs and not for repairs.
Non-recurring closing
Thank you
costs.
very much.
Yes. I'm gonna blow the loan up.
Non-recurring
Yeah.
closing costs.
The lender does not want to hear about any
No,
repairs
no, no.
that need to be done.
Non-recurring closing
yeah.
costs.
So,
Say that one more time.
yeah.
Non-recurring.
Non-recurring closing costs.
closing costs.
Seller credit up to, in most cases, up to 6% of the purchase price.
So the end talk with Elizabeth would be down the road that we've done all the due diligence, all the reports and everything
Right.
else, and we are sending an addendum for closing costs.
Non-recurring closing costs.
Non-recurring closing cost credit.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now we've talked a little bit about inspections, and now we're going to go into the loan condition. Let's talk about the loan condition.
So once you're live in a property, and by the way, when you're making offers and submitting them, I love to reach out to the listing agent as well and rave about
So
not
important.
only the realtors that I work with, but the borrowers
And it's
all
gonna
the work
close.
that they've done up front,
Yeah.
and how it's like, oh my gosh, yes, they're fully underwritten. These are realtors that I've been working with for years. We're happy to handle this. Not new to the business at all. I've been in this business since 2000. So, to
And make
help
friends.
establish that listing, that relationship also with the listing side. But-
And it shouldn't be a lose-lose negotiation. It should be a win-win negotiation.
1000%.
Yeah.
And you're right. Anyone could get a license, but can you work well
Negotiate.
with listing agents and the
Yeah.
sellers? So it's a win-win for everyone.
Totally.
So once everything is ratified and I have the ratified purchase contract, I send it all back into the bank for it to be underwritten so that they'll review the appraisal, the purchase contract, and the title report. Those are the items that the underwriter has not seen because obviously we didn't have the specific property. Once all that's reviewed, the underwriter will give me a list within, 24 to 48 hours after submitting it for a conditional approval. On that, typically they want the most updated pay stubs, the most updated bank statements to make sure that everything's still on track for their earning and that no large cash deposits have been made into the accounts.
Yeah. Don't buy a house like you're excited about buying a house. Don't buy a car, for
Oh
instance.
yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that they haven't made any huge
purchases.
purchases. I always say, please don't go out and buy a Ferrari while you're in
No.
contract or
Please
something. Don't deposit a bunch of cash into your accounts
Right.
because you're wanting to beef up your accounts. Before making any financial moves, call me,
Yeah.
text me. I'll say yay or
Consistency
nay.
is key.
But, basically you'll get this list of conditions and you'll submit them and then they're reviewed by the underwriter. And hopefully that will be sufficient for the underwriter to say, I've got everything I need to sign off on everything, give you the green light for what's called the clear to close.
Yeah.
Making sure that title's clear, making sure that their employment's been verified, written and verbal with their job up until the day they sign. They want to make sure that they still have their job. I have had people lose employment during escrow.
Oh, that's
But believe it or not, this one time, this lady actually got a job a week later for more money, and we were still able to close on time. So it's interesting,
Oh, thank you, life.
escrows are a
Yeah.
wild ride.
Escrow rodeo.
Yeah, and I always say, it's like, when you're bored of playing. Totally. When you're bored of playing, you're going from point A to point B, but you never
don't know how you're
if
going to get
gonna
there.
encounter any kind
Turbulence.
of turbulence.
Right.
But
And we
believe it or not,
can
it
get
does.
through.
But
We can get
having
through.
professionals there,
That's right.
to help you resolve and find ways to get around it. That's how you get to point B and you land.
Totally.
And,
Totally.
that's our job.
And one of the biggest questions I have with first-time home buyers is that they're signing all this paperwork and they're signing all these disclosures, and it's just disclosure, 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 disclosure. And they're like, okay, when do I get my keys? So when
best part.
do we get the keys? After they do all the, like, so much signing.
So usually 5 to 3 days before close of escort date on contract, we have something we call it final walkthrough.
Ooh, the final walkthrough.
That we go through the house. Usually staging items is removed, so
Yeah.
you can see all the walls.
What it really
inside
looks
the,
like?
Yes, inside you can see the plain naked home that you are going to move in.
Yeah.
Naked truth.
Yes, and sometimes there are some surprises. I had the case that in 3 days before final walkthrough, they had flood.
Oh.
All over came in, so we had to delay and
in
do
the
the repair.
same-
Yes, so things happens.
Yeah.
It's just, but in normal and a standard way, if nothing happened, everything's removed. You just checklist and make sure everything's in there. Walls are there, doors are there, and then you're ready to
If
close.
the property is in the same condition as when the offer
Yes.
was made.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know we don't have a lot of time left, but that also makes me think, okay, that's probably going to add on a few more days before you can close escrow.
Right, 'cause
And
you
what
have
if
to do the
rate
repairs. Mm-hmm.
is about to expire and needs to be extended.
Dun, dun,
And then
dun.
who's going to pay for that extension, right? So there's so many moving parts right in escrow.
Yeah.
So many things that could happen. I mean, the chances are much higher that things are going to happen, but that's why it's so important that the lender, the buyer's agent, the listing agent
Are
are
in
all
communication. We're all in the same
working
team
with
here.
people that know what they're doing, that have been there before, that have learned from all the escrows they've had prior, because you come away with nuggets.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
Well,
it's hard to cover it all, but I
it
hope
really
we've
is.
given you a sense of there's so
Yeah.
many parts, moving parts, and that it's important to just, ask any question, because there's
Yeah.
no silly questions.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth, how can people find you?
Best way to reach me is via phone.
Yeah.
I love to receive phone calls. I've had the same number since 1997.
Me too.
When it was cellular one here in San Francisco back in the day.
Yeah,
I don't know if
absolutely.
you remember that, but best
Uh-huh.
number to reach me is 415 area code 602-5931.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You had
you.
everybody scrambling for a pen.
Yeah, I bet I did.
They're watching you on the phone or listening to you on the
Yeah.
phone.
Well, just in case, we'll have audio listeners and, podcast, Facebook Live listeners. So we'll see.
and those phone numbers and contact information will be down below in each post, by the way, guys.
Awesome.
Very good.
And you, Shiva?
925-876-2290. The best would be to go to my website, though, homesbyshivaj.com, and it's right below my name.
Cool. And my phone number is,
Wow, we're just getting out all the phone numbers here.
well,
Okay, this is
you know,
good.
like
like
I
that.
want to make sure that everyone can reach me. It's 415-572-2670. And my name is Monika Thomas, Monika with a K. And I am in the Castro office. So thank you so much for listening to Get Real Estate. Paul Brumbaugh, you've been a gem as ever. Thank you so much for having us at the studio here today. And it's edgestudiosonline.com. Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice.
Paul.
Thank
Yeah.
you, guys.
Thanks so much. Thanks for listening to Sexploration. Get Real Estate.